Welcome to the Three Dot Podcast. This is episode 37, and we are going solo again. Have a couple guests that might come on later. If not, we are going to have one of those people on probably next week or the week after. Will not be on this episode. I will address that shortly. We got a couple Will topics and producer announcement in general to make. Got to do some Ohio State talk today, just briefly, because a lot of things happened. Couple movies to talk about: Ohio State basketball, Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, Kanye beef with I don't know, wasn't it Kai something? I don't know, some YouTuber. Bruno Mars, a little bit of stand up, and some video game talk. I want to start because I know there's a lot of feedback about the sales job that I talked about. So I'd like to begin with one of my favorite stories from that job. Now, I mentioned before how we were selling energy and sometimes giving away gift cards, sometimes not, sometimes quote unquote scamming people. Well, there's been a lot of talk about that, whether or not it's a scam. But like I said, doing a job. But I mentioned that we sold phones as well. And one of my favorite things that ever happened when we were selling phones is the lowest form of local celebrity came in. And this was I don't know if her term was like a psychiatrist or something, but she was a doctor. She was a woman who did a spot on the Denny Schaefer show, which is a local radio show. And like I said, I'm not sure what the lowest level celebrity is, but this has to be close. And she pulled one of the most disgusting moves I've ever witnessed. And I think a couple years later, this interaction would have gone viral because she seems like the type that would have filmed it and or talked about it on the radio and act like a great injustice has been done to her. But anyway, she's standing there with her cuck of a husband. Some people out there are probably secretly cucks, but some wear it on their sleeves. This guy, very passive, very nice, making up for his wife, but I'm sure it wasn't the first time he saw the good doctor try to use this maneuver to no avail. But she starts out very friendly, and she casually drops that she appears on the Danny Schaefer show. And I actually knew what that was at the time because I was working third shift, and in the mornings, if my aux cord was broken and I didn't have a CD of Nails on a Chalkboard to listen to, I turn on Denny Schaefer and see what passes for entertainment in a small city with no optimism or a standard for entertainment. Now, there's a lot of issues going on with her phone, and being the salesman that I am, I said, "Oh, really? I've heard you on there. Wow, just feigning being starstruck. You can't be too starstruck at a Sam's Club in Holland, Ohio." But a glorified counselor is trying to flex, her level on you. But anyway, we continue to sell. Now, selling phones, as I mentioned, was great, but there were a few problems. Only about 2 types of the phones we had worked perfectly during setup and checkout. The rest were horrible because they'd either been scanned before, inventory was off, the SIM card problems. We didn't even have the phones at the counter. Actually, where we sold them, that little booth, we would have to go find a high school girl that was a manager at Sam's Club and have her take us upstairs to a locked storage closet, find the phone the person wanted, come back down, find a SIM card that matched the phone, and install it ourselves right there. Once or twice did we lose a person's data or send them on their way with a phone that we knew probably wouldn't work? Maybe. Maybe that happened. But at that point, go to Verizon. You knew what you were getting into when you walked in. But anyway, she needed this iPhone in a certain color, and she needed it in a hurry. She kept emphasizing that she was in a hurry, and at times we would have people standing there for like 30 minutes, an hour, just trying to set up the phones or find the right phones. So I'm doing my job. I go upstairs, get the SIM card, we're cooking. No problems. Except now the system isn't working. The whole register system, inventory, all that. And if that happened, the high-tech place that we had a number written in crayon attached to the register that said IT support, just scribbled IT support on it. The thing is, they never answered. The entire time I worked there, I think we actually got help from that number one time, maybe twice. So now I'm sweating there. I'm sweating a little bit because she's getting annoyed and keeps emphasizing that she just stopped in to get a phone quick because she had to be somewhere else. And some people would apologize and let them go. That's, a normal thing. It's like, hey, our system's out. We're not going to be able to do it. Instead, what I did is I pretended to be on the phone talking to IT while typing random keys on the computer and praying something would happen from just refreshing the page. The beauty of this is that twice I forgot I was mimicking a call and just held the phone next to my ear without saying anything, then snapping back into it and asking her a question I pretended to relay to a guy named Roger who didn't even exist in IT. I assured her Roger is the best guy we have, top notch. Again, no one's even on the phone. The husband is enjoying the show of care and actually apologizing to me for being in so much trouble. And that's when the doctor drops an incredible line I've only seen drunk athletes use when they get pulled over. She goes, I'm on the Denny Schaefer show. And I said, yes, I'm aware you're on the Denny Schaefer show. And she goes, you'd think we could get better service. I'm kind of an important customer. Eh, First of all, go fuck yourself. But without missing a beat, I said, ma'am, all of our customers are important. And let me tell you something. She did not like that answer. She did not like that answer one bit. And said, so I said it again. I said, all of our customers are important. I said, Roger just told me he has to reboot the system on his end. You had got about a 45-minute wait before we can try again. And her jaw literally dropped. And remember, no one's on the phone. There is no Roger. This is just me putting on a show and then deciding you're not getting your phone today. I'm in control of your life right now. You want to flex that you're a glorified counselor? Great. I'm the one that decides whether you get out of here or not with what you need. And we already took apart or disabled her phone to set up the new one. So yeah, get fucked. Now, the Black Oak marketing, it's Toledo marketing because it changed every week. But we're Roger isn't real, but that company is very real, and we're not going to take any shit when I'm on the clock. I already told you about the lady with the low credit score. Now I got a counselor in here trying to flex whatever muscle she's got. Both of them can get bent. And she grabbed her broken phone and walks out. And her husband, before having his leash pulled, looks at me and just kind of smiles for a second, as if he knew and he almost admired me for talking to her that way. And what's incredible about this entire story is that Mez walks up. I told him what happened. He hits two buttons and the issue solved. We could have done our phone right there. No need for Roger. No need to even bring Roger into it. But I was much happier seeing her face than I would have been selling her a phone that probably would have been used to find people to fuck behind her husband's back. Now, Mez helped me there. And Mez, I've mentioned, is a sales wizard, but he also had an addiction. This company was great. And no, I'm not talking about a drug addiction. This guy was straight edge as far as I could tell. Once on a road trip where he had me drive because he was afraid of cars. Yes, afraid of cars. So he never even got his license. I hit a dab pen while driving him, and I thought he was asleep. And boy, was he not pleased with that move. Bad move on my part. But anyway, this isn't about my addiction. It's about his. My man loved three things more than anything else. Mez loved to sell energy under the guise of $70 gift cards, Sam's Club rotisserie chickens, and free samples. This man and I spent hours together, just the two of us, and every single day he would put it on this performance. He would go, someone would walk by and with a rotisserie chicken, and every single time he'd go, "Oh man, you see, if she's got one of those chickens, I wonder where those are at." And then he would walk right to where they are every day and go, "Man, I have to try one of these." And he'd speed by me and go put in his car for later. And this happened at least twice a week, and each time it was the same show. He'd rediscover the chickens, put one in his car to take home, then come back and sell energy like a madman. However, while the chickens were stashed away to take home, he still had to get through a shift, and the man literally never left. He never took a break as long as I worked there, outside of going to his car for a chicken. So he would he would get through the shift by walking to each and every free sample station multiple times a day. And it was wild to watch this. The guy literally would make his rounds over and over, and the ladies would get pissed off. They'd be like, get out of here. We know what you're doing. We see you standing over there. You're a worker. You're not, a customer. You're not going to buy this stuff. You're just eating lunch." Um, but whether it was, uh, I mean, I don't know why they got so mad though, because I don't know whether it was just like the act of him doing it over and over, or if they're racist. I'm not sure. I'm still investigating Sam's Club ideologies to this day. But either way, it culminated in Audra, who I've mentioned, who was the owner of the company or CEO, whatever the fuck. It was a scam. So I'm not going to worry about giving her credit. But she would come into the store once in a while, and she let us know that there were several complaints about her workers eating all the samples. And what's great about this is Mez, being the sales scammer that he is, he goes, "That's crazy. I wonder what happened. You know, I had one the other day. The lady said something about us eating too much, but I can't believe the store would get involved. And now it's my turn. Just like the doctor from before, it's my turn to drop my jaw." And I wanted to yell at him. I wanted to go, "Meds, you're taking 10 samples a day minimum. Like, how can you be surprised?" But, hey, that's life in the big city. Audrey wasn't going to say shit to her top earner. That was essentially, this place was like the mafia, I'm convinced. But in that regard, Mez's envelope was never light. So what are you going to do to your top earner? The guy wants the free samples. He's going to get a free sample. Um, during during this entire time working there, this was finishing up my degenerate phase. The phase lasted a long time from freshman year of college, and then when I got popped for operating heavy machinery while allegedly under the influence. That's neither here or there. But that's just highlighting what kind of time period we were in, what era we were in. I also watched a presidential election during this time at a Frickers by myself with 20 wings and enough drafts to kill a small horse. Um, and I remember drinking and thinking I knew what I was talking about, tweeting out like political takes. Yeah, I mean, just a mess of a person. Um, I don't, I will tell more stories from the sales job, but that is one of my favorites. Is Mez getting popped for free samples by Sam's Club, and the doctor from the Denny Schaefer show trying to flex and say, I'm a really important customer, and then Black Oak marketing team, no, 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 you don't try that here. Um, with that, I was gonna do more. I'm gonna save them because like I said, I got a lot of stories from that place, and I want to do a little bit each time. Let's get into Will and his time here with the Three Dot Podcast. So if we start from the beginning, there's a lot of excitement for Will. He helped us get on video, which I also don't need because, as you can see, I've been doing it solo, and I could have set this up on my own, but I wanted someone to like actually do production for it, which now he more or less just sits back and watches the show. But there's some issues that arose even in the last few days. He told me because I was going to record this morning. I'm actually recording this. It's now 1:50 in the afternoon on Sunday. I was going to do it early. We had to move a stove, bring in a new stove, go pick up a sink from Menards. We got breakfast at the original Pancake House, which is awesome, by the way, right off Central. Very good place, very good breakfast. But Will, Thursday, Friday. So first of all, he still was working on a rate sheet, and then we were talking about the rate sheet. Him and I on the phone. He said he talked about how he listened to shows, loves the bit of me complaining about him, all that. But then on the phone, he said he's gonna be. He either texted me or called me and said he's gonna be dropping acid. I believe Saturday night, and he's dropping acid with his buddy, but he'll be there for the show. And I literally immediately said it was over text. I immediately said, "I'll go solo then. I don't need that. I don't need you on acid to be here for the podcast." So that's relevant. He goes, "No, don't worry. I'll behave." Which, first of all, you're a grown man saying you have to behave. But then he says, "I'll just sit there and I'll timestamp it." Which, again, if that's all you're doing, I can listen back and timestamp it for clips. Like, that's not really helpful. And if you're just going to sit there and be high, I don't need that. I don't want that. And just not engaged. And I get it. I get the whole thing. He's volunteering. We've been over this a million times, but I don't want that, And then we're talking about the ad split. And this is all in one breath. He goes, we'll do 70-30 once we start selling ads. Like, I'll take a 30% cut. But he goes, you know what? Actually, 60-40. And before I can even say anything, he goes, "No, fuck that, 50-50, because I'll be making the graphics." And then just moves on to something else, something about life insurance. But first of all, that's not how negotiation works. You don't get to just dictate terms. Secondly, if we worked up to 50-50 during talks, that's fine. But if I'm the one doing the sales calls, I'm the one that's doing the show that you would be selling, where's the 50-50 come in? And if he was here, I would have that debate with him because I wanted to negotiate it live on the air, but I don't want to do it if he's on acid. So what the fuck? But I just don't. That really pissed me off. The whole 50-50. I'm gonna make the graphics. I don't need that. So I also don't want to do a show where every single week it's just talking about Will and the different things that he's done or what are we gonna do with Will. I don't want to do that. So, sometimes you have to go on a long journey just to come home. And I'd like to announce that Phil Holtz will be taking over as an associate producer for now in a trial run and potentially taking Will's job as the main producer of the show. I had a good conversation with Phil. We were talking about rates, talking about sales, talking about him cutting clips and doing graphics. And right now it's an open competition, but I'm leaning heavily towards going back home to Phil. And Phil was going to be on today. He couldn't make it. He actually had a legitimate reason other than dropping acid. Not that dropping acid is not a relevant reason, but one's a little bit more credible than the other. So people that love Phil get excited because Phil's coming back. People who love Will still be around, just in a more reduced role, where if he wants to cut clips or if he decides that's not worth his time, then he can walk away. But as of right now, it's going to be a solo show or with some guests. Like I said, I tried to line up a few today, but it was late notice because I didn't know when I would be recording. And Phil Holtz is now going to be the producer of the 3 Dot podcast. And I would have done all this with Will here or Will not here. That's not relevant to why this is happening. It's a buildup of things. And Phil is back. Other things that happened this weekend, literally like after I had the text conversation with Will that night, I went to Crumble Cookies again. And if you remember, talked about Crumble Cookies and how there was a woman there that later committed suicide because she hates her family. You remember that story. But I'm walking in, and so there's picking up an order, and there's one guy in there by the iPad getting ready to order. A young woman walks out of Amy's Pizza Factory, which is right next door. And as I'm walking in, she's walking from that building into Crumble right ahead of me, and she's literally like bouncing up and down, smiling, laughing, like having a great time. High on life, not acid. And she goes up to the guy who's, this bigger dude, tatted up, just a guy, but trying to paint an image for you. And she goes, is this what we're ordering? And he snaps at her. He goes, yeah, it is. You don't have to eat them all. And I'm just kind of like, okay, geez, like, goddamn, what's going on here? And I'm waiting for an online order, so I'm just in line, and it's just us 3 in there. And then I hear again, I hear her say no, because I think he had like a 12 cookie box or something, or maybe 2 12 cookie boxes. I don't know, a lot of cookies. And I hear her say, no, let's do this and this. And he goes, I want to try them all. I want to try them all. You don't have to eat them. I might not like this one. You can have that one. And I'm like, what is going on? This is a grown man who's having a fucking meltdown. And like I said, the reason I mentioned her walking in is she was so happy, so just excited. And then I see her slam her phone down, and he just keeps saying, I want to try them all. I want to try them all. And I'm just like, is this your man or are you babysitting? Like, this is a grown-ass man having a full-on meltdown over some fucking cookies. Now, I almost had a similar situation at the same time because the girl who handed me the cookies had marshmallow frosting over the side of the box. I didn't notice until I grabbed it, so it got over my hand. I almost had a fucking meltdown over that. I almost went back in. Not the point. I almost had a rampage. But this guy was having an actual rampage at his girlfriend because she didn't think they should spend $50 in cookies. And I think that she was probably right in that. But whatever. I avoided going in there and lecturing the young woman at Crumble about human etiquette, but there's no word for that. There's no word for restraint. No trophies, as Drake would say. But Crumble Cookies has provided a lot of content for the show lately, so I think I'm going to have to keep going there. Even if I don't buy something, I'll just camp out and people watch. I didn't expect it to be this gold mine that it is. That's become. I skipped over the Will updates or I didn't skip over, but I did the Will thing. I did want to mention in the conversation with Phil, we did come up with a rate sheet. So if you would like to buy some ad space on the 3 Dot podcast or know someone that owns a small business or would like to get their name out there for whatever reason, go ahead and inquire. You can message us. You can message me or Phil to talk about that, or you can talk to Us on Twitter or Instagram at 3 Podcast, TikTok at 3 Podcast. You can comment on our YouTube, honestly, if you would really want to do that. Or you can email us at 3 Podcast at gmail.com and talk about some ad space, and we can set that up for you. We've worked on some prices. We've worked on different things. Phil and I know what our split's going to be. That's all taken care of. Um, so yeah, so we're going to start selling ads. We've sold a few more shirts. I would like to say to Jeff, you said you were going to buy a shirt, and I don't want to call you out individually, but here I am. Much like Jenico, who finally did buy one. Jeff, you said you would buy one, and I checked the data. Your name was not there. Not there, Jeff. Bad news. You're going to be on that other list. The one no one wants to be on. You're going to have to knock, tell your neighbors, I didn't buy a 3 Dot shirt. My hands are tied. Anyway, Ohio State basketball. We'll talk about Ohio State football, but Ohio State basketball first. They sounds like they are going to hire Jake Diebler. Jake Diebler, John, shit. I've been saying it all day and now I don't remember. Diebler is the point as the head coach. I don't know. I'm 50-50. Interim coaches, I think it's a good thing because it shows loyalty. If you do well, you're not going to can the coach. I think that it's a small thing, but he did perform really well with the same team that Chris Holtman had. So I think you got to at least give him a shot, even if it's a year or 2 year deal. Also, you don't want to lose him, and then he gets a job somewhere else and turns out to be this amazing coach. He did really well from what I saw. Give him a chance. I also don't know what big name was out there. I saw a few of them. Why not just stick with what you know? The players seem to really respond to him, so give him a chance. It all comes down to recruiting anyway in college sports. So if he can do that at all, I think you're in a good situation. Toledo basketball at the same time fell apart, losing to Kent State and Root. Did I say his name? Oh, Alex, you know who you are. Bill, you know exactly who I'm talking to. He wanted to rant about Toledo basketball, I guess, but he didn't talk to me, even though he talks to me about the show. He messaged Murph, who we've tried to get on the show many times, but he refuses. Murph, come on the show, even if it's for a quick segment, because that's what we tried to do today. But Bill, Rue, whatever you're going to go by here, talk to me. You could have come on the show. I would have easily sent you a link. I could send you a link right now if you want. I will text him and see if he wants to come on, and we'll get a rant in. And I also tried to have my buddy Ryan on to talk Ohio State. He couldn't do it at the time that I'm recording now. It was hard because I was trying to set up people to come on, but I also didn't have the time, like I mentioned. Let's see here. 1, 2, 1. Stand by. We'll see what he says. Because Toledo basketball, I care a little bit. I follow a little bit, but I don't know them like that. I just know that they lost. What I do know about is Ohio State football. And Tony Alford, running backs coach for Ohio State, has accepted a job at Michigan. And there's a couple things about that are very strange. And one, the destination, obviously. Like a lot of the people upset are just upset about the destination and also the timing. Wait until spring practice starts. You have arguably the best run back in room in the country. I'm not going to sit here and say it's the best, but you got Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins both there. Down Hayden's in the fold. You got to, it's not something you would think you would easily walk away from. Now, I know that he wasn't extended while the rest of the staff was with the last go round of contracts. I don't think he was going to be here long regardless. And no extreme. I'm torn because I don't know what's going on inside the man's head or inside that building. But at the same time, it's fucked up to go to Michigan, especially when you had offers to USC and Notre Dame over the summer and the last 2 years that you could have taken. But instead you go to Michigan now, jumping on a sinking ship, or at least on paper, it looks like that staff and that team is going to be in a down year when Ohio State was going to be on top. Seems like you would at least stick it out one more year and go pick any job you want. But also, if I had to pick one coach, because a couple Michigan fans asked me, what does this mean? Like, what are we getting? You're going to find coach, but if we had to pick one coach on the staff this year to lose, it would have been Tony Alford. That would have been the coach I would have picked out of all of them. He's struggled recruiting recently. He's lost a bunch of commits, and the way he's recruited, he gets a South Florida kid to commit early. Then we don't pay attention to some guys that are more local. We lose them, and then by the end, we lose the Florida kid. Now that's just kind of the nature of recruiting, especially in this day and age. But can't have that keep happening. And the room this year would have been in shambles if Henderson didn't decide to come back and Judkins didn't decide to come in. And I also don't think either of those guys stayed or came in because of Alford. I think that has to do more with the brand of Ohio State, the team, the other moves that we made, and people were excited to come in. Um, there was a thing going around about the different running backs he's recruited the last since he started. Actually, there's a few, and I also think he gets a little bit too much credit for development because people were talking about J.K. Dobbins and all this. Dobbins would have been great no matter where he went, no matter who was coaching him. The guys that have been great at Ohio State were great as freshmen, not Tony Alford got his hands on them, put them in the factory, and churned out stars. That was never the case, or at least it didn't appear that way from the outside. I'm curious who is next, especially with recruiting and being in this period of the year. A lot of talk about Alabama's running back coach coming in. A lot of people want Eddie George to come in. People saying Maurice Cordet can calm down. I'm a big Maurice Cordet fan because I was really young and I watched him. That national championship year was unbelievable, but let's not hand the reins over to someone who's never coached and just talks a lot of shit on Twitter. It could be the right move eventually, but I just don't think that's what we need to do right now, especially for stability in the program. The Alabama coach would be great. There's the Texas running back coach was talked about as a target. We'll see what happens. I think running back coach is one that's big for recruiting, but I don't think it's huge. Like at this point with this roster, I don't think it's to make or break position coach. So we will see. There's a little bit more on Tony Alford, but I did want to also talk about this Ohio State related. Justin Fields traded to Pittsburgh for nothing, for a couple nickels. I truly don't get this move. You have the number one pick. Now, it'd be impossible for me to say I don't have bias on this because I'm a Justin Fields fan. But how do you not trade the number one pick, get a bunch of picks, build around this guy who's shown that he has talent, and your team, your coordinator sucked, your team sucked, you can't protect him, your scheme was horrible. You had him and DJ Moore basically just playing backyard football out there, and he was still showing glimpses of what he could be. Instead, you're going to reset. You get nothing for Fields. Absolutely nothing that's going to actually help you that much. And you're going to take Caleb Williams, who I think is going to be a bust. I'm going to go on right. I could be wrong on that. Obviously, that's the risk you run, especially projecting draft picks. But I don't think Caleb Williams is that guy. I really don't. And it's not just off the field stuff, but I think that's a big part of it, especially at the quarterback position. But I don't think he's this generational talent that gets thrown around every year. I don't think there's been a generational quarterback that's come out in recent years. I just don't see it with Caleb Williams, especially. I think he's an average quarterback. I think he could be slightly above average, depending on what team he goes to. And Chicago's not that team, especially depending on what they're going to have around him, which sounds like it's not going to be much more than what Fields had without the mobility. I don't know. I personally think that teams need to start being smarter about this. I mean, it's easy for me to sit here and say this, but why reset and put yourself in the same position that you're in right now in 3 years, 4 years, or whatever the case may be? And now, if Caleb Williams turns out to be a star, sure. But like, I was having this exact conversation with Andy at work. Stroud is an anomaly. CJ Stroud's an anomaly. It happens to be an Ohio State guy. I get it, bias there, but his talent, his poise, his leadership coming out of college is unbelievable compared to what most guys are. And he took a team, talk about nailing picks. Houston with Will Anderson and CJ Stroud, they were supposed to be average to below average, and those two guys contributed right away, and Stroud took them on a playoff run, running towards the playoffs. Why would you assume that that's going to happen? You know how rare that is? Andrew Luck's the number one. I don't know what you think where every year these teams shoot up the boards to try to get these quarterbacks and assume that they're going to save everything. That doesn't happen. Statistically, that is so rare to happen. Why the hell would you take a shot? You're playing the lottery again and again, and you're just going to keep resetting yourself. And what happens when it doesn't work out for the fifth time? Like, how many times do we have to keep doing this or see this for teams to stop saying, "Well, we just gotta go get a quarterback." The It's insane. The media is hyping guys up that shouldn't be hyped up the way they are. All of this could be turned out to be wrong if Williams is a stud, but I just do not see that with him. I'm not a scout. I don't know, but just eye test, me watching, me looking at stats, I personally don't think he's that good to lift an entire franchise. I didn't necessarily. I thought Stroud would be solid, but I didn't think he would be what he was. That's rare. Even a guy that you think is going to be good, being as good as he was, is extremely rare. Williams, I don't see it. He's going to a bad team, even worse than the way Houston set up. I don't think they have the capacity to build around him. I think it's going to be a problem. I think it's going to be a real, real problem. And then you have Fields going to the Steelers, and Fields might end up winning this deal. I mean, no pressure. You're going there to back up Russell Wilson, learn from a guy who I also don't think is like. If you had to pick a guy to learn from, I don't think Russell Wilson's like the guy I would pick as like my mentor. But you sit there. If Wilson struggles, fans want you. There's no pressure to come in. It's a better organization than Chicago. It just is. And I think they will know how to at least put them in a better position. Not that they're a great team to do this, but I think they are a better coach and at least able to put Fields in spots that let him succeed. Where the Bears did the complete opposite of that and then are throwing him to the curb. Very bizarre turn of events there. And I really thought Chicago might do the right thing and trade the pick. I really did. But of course they didn't, because why would anyone make a good decision? Going into the YouTube things I was talking about, apparently Kanye's beefing with a YouTuber because the YouTuber made fun of Kanye's clothes. Now, I don't know. I think the whole YouTube thing's stupid. These guys make so much money and it's ridiculous. I get it that I'm just sitting here complaining, but I think this is weird on a few levels. Because one, like Kanye seeing that is weird. Kanye acknowledging it is weird, but the way that Kanye attacked him was bizarre. He kept saying, "You're a pawn. Someone told you to make fun of my clothes." Like Kanye's taking it to a whole nother level of conspiracy that someone got in this YouTuber's ear and said you need to make fun of Kanye's clothes. Not a huge story, not something I'm going to really be watching, but just really interesting that Kanye saw it and took it to that level. I don't think it's any surprise that Kanye's crazy, but very just unstable, very bizarre. Another YouTube story: Jake Paul is fighting Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, Iron Mike, the hangover Mike Tyson. Yes, and I hope this isn't the same thing as been with all the Jake Paul fights, where it's either washed up guys or whatever. He's fighting a 50 something, 60-year-old Mike Tyson, who still looks like he could kill a man. He might have yesterday. Who knows? I hope that Mike Tyson just destroys him. I hope that even if there's a deal that Tyson's supposed to lose, he breaks it and just beats the shit out of him. I hate that the Paul brothers, right? Yeah, Paul brothers are successful. I hate everything that they represent. It would be so great to see it. I won't watch it. I won't know what happens until I see shit on Twitter about it. But just bizarre that it's happening. Bizarre that Tyson would accept it, unless Tyson plans on beating the shit out of him. And if he beats Tyson in what seems like a fair fight, okay, hats off. I think it's weird, the whole fighting thing in general. I think it's a very bizarre thing to do. But here we are. This is America in this day and age. This one I just saw, just a random fact. Apparently, Bruno Mars is just like all of us. He's in extreme gambling debt. He makes, was it 90 million for residency at MGM, but based off how much he owes the casino, he's only gonna make 1.5 million a show or a year, whatever the fuck the thing is. Insane. He's just one of us. Me and Big J. We could be Bruno Mars. He is us. Us is him. Speaking of which, Big J and I are cleaning up this college basketball season. I literally, as we speak, just hit another one. The Big J system, get with us, tail us. Very, very successful, unlike Bruno Mars. I don't know what he's playing. That's my big question. Is he just losing the fuck ton on blackjack every night? Does he have no one in his life to cut him off? Is it sports betting? What's happening? But celebrities are just like us, just people, gambling addictions. Speaking of celebrity, I had something about Taylor Swift. I just don't get, people are asking Taylor Swift to speak out about the war in the Middle East. Why do, like, people are aware of it. Why do we look to celebrities to tell us to be aware of like, what's the demand? Like, if she's silent, she condones it. Like, it's just some backwards thinking. I don't wanna get into a whole thing on that this week, but just very strange, just the whole interactions with celebrities these days, and they have to say the right things and do the right things. What if Taylor Swift came out and was like, "I'm for it." You asked her to speak, and what if it turns out she's for it? She wants more wars all across the world. She wants the entire world at war. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, what is this where you want them to speak, but they need to say the right things? It's just a very weird thing. One thing you don't want is to be Neil Patrick Harris, who this is an old story, but it came across. I had never seen it. He served a meat platter at a party, and the meat platter was set up to look like Amy Winehouse, her corpse. I don't know. Look into that. Google that. Someone do some research on that one. Phil, get on that. Will would probably know more about it. This is one place where Will would actually help. Um, I'm going quick because I've done 35 minutes, and like I said, solo show. Wanted to get the producer announcement out. Wanted to tell a quick story. Um, was going to do a comedian thing. I'll wait for Phil to do that because we were talking comedians the other day. Um, I did the gambling updates. We're gonna get in and out today. Oh, the shit! I forget the name of the group, but there's a trio. There's three guys that are on SNL. They're like their own comedy troupe, and from what I've seen, they're the only people still doing funny stuff at Saturday Night Live. They have a movie coming out with the producers of Step Brothers doing it. Now, I saw a trailer. It looks okay. We'll see. But I'm very curious because obviously Step Brothers is a extreme like a classic for you know a whole generation. I wonder if these guys can pull it off. I wonder if they're young enough and like the right kind of stuff to where they're not gonna make another comedy that's just not funny or not in the vein of just trying to make people laugh. I hope it's not some thing. It's something about a cult that they get in accidentally or something. I'm not sure. I forget the name of the movie, but I wanted to mention it because it's something I'm keeping my eye on to potentially be a good comedy, like Ricky Stenicki, better than Oppenheimer, which brings me to the Oppenheimer segment. Um, I'm throwing another movie in there. It's better than Oppenheimer. It might be controversial. It's a rom com. Sydney Sweeney's in it. Anyone but you. Very good movie. I'm a sucker for a rom com. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm not. Good, good movie. Rom coms are predictable. Whatever. It was very funny. It had all the right elements of a rom com. I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna sit here and stand and say it's better than Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer still falling, plunging down my big board. And I know Anthony is not gonna like that, but that's okay. I will give it another shot. Anthony and Justin are the two big people who always get bothered by this segment. I will try Oppenheimer again. I will. But until I do, these movies are better than it in my mind. Ricky Stenicki might be number one right now for this year in terms of movies I've seen. Thanksgiving number two. Aquaman 2 is like number 5. It's barely above Oppenheimer. And that was a horrible movie. Lastly, let me bring up the shout out I was going to do because I wanted to talk about two video games briefly. I downloaded Overcooked. I don't know if people have seen that on TikTok or whatever. It's a co op game. Haley and it's the first game I've gotten Haley to play, and we were playing together. Very fun. I recommend it if you always get in trouble for gaming too much. This is one you can play with your significant other. Get them involved. Very entertaining, very fun, very easy, but a very good time. So highly recommend that. I also just wanted to throw out some nostalgia because some people I used to play with listen to the show. I used to play Skate 2 all the time. Skate 2 is an amazing game. I downloaded Skate 3 to try that out. I forgot that Skate existed, but very good. Been playing that again. And since I'm talking about video games, I would like to give a shout out to people who remember James from the podcast. He quiet quitted, or he was quiet quitting, then he quit, then he came back. Kidding. Love James. He got busy. He's been moving. Hopefully we're going to get him on the show because now we don't need to be in studio. We can just send a link. So hopefully he'll come on. But he is streaming now. He is on Twitch and YouTube as, oh boy, Minktol, Minktol, Minktol. That's Minktol on YouTube and Twitch. If you'd like to go ahead and just give it a shot. Go watch him. Watch James's content. He's a very funny guy, very good guy. Was one of the best men at my wedding. I had to deal with it. Um, but James is an awesome guy. So go support him. Um, I'm not huge into streaming, so I don't know like I couldn't tell you like what he is playing or what kind of content it is. But go watch it. I'm gonna check it out today. He's been a great friend and he's a great guy. Very funny, very entertaining. So I'm sure it's going to be some great content over there. So check that out on YouTube or Twitch if you're into streaming. Give him a shout out. Tell him 3 Dot sends you. I might give him a shirt, or if he wants to buy a shirt, I don't know. We'll figure that out. And he would wear the shirt on the stream. So I'm going to talk about his. I was going to talk about him regardless, and talk about his stream for people to check out. But if we get a little cross promotion, even better. Let's help each other out. Let's all grow. So I wanted to give a shout out to him, and none of my guests could come through. I just got a last text. Like I said, this is going to be, I said a quick one, but 40 minutes. So we're in and out. Biggest things to take away. Will on his way out, Phil on his way in. We are going to be working on selling ads. So hopefully you'll hear me do an ad read. I don't know, within the next month or two, because we got to finalize our rate sheet, talk to some people, get that going out there. There may be another big announcement coming up, but I'm not even going to pretend to spoil that or tease that even a little bit. I will just say it on the show when it happens, if it happens, when it happens. The rate sheet, you can still buy the merch store. There's a link on our Twitter or X page and our Instagram at 3 Dot Podcast for both of those. Give us a follow. You can find the merch there, hats, shirts, whatever style you want. Pick a style, pick a color. Do all of that. Add inquiries at 3dotpodcast@gmail.com. And we will continue to be doing a show once a week. I might start doing the short bonus shows more often because I almost did one last week. We will see, just because getting the stories, several days late is whatever, but we're also kind of insulated, so we don't really talk too much all the time of current events. We will do some. Like I would have liked to have done the Alford thing that day. And then it frees me up to do more kind of outside the box topics or fun topics here. But regardless, keep listening. Thank you for listening. Give us a follow. Reach out to someone that might be looking to sell an ad or that you might think would be interested. Give us some leads, and we will try to sell an ad on the podcast. And Phil is in, Will is out. We are going to have hopefully an interview next week, or at least a few guest spots coming up. And I believe that'll do it. Just hit another bet. Boom. And that will do it for episode 37 of the 3 Dot Podcast.